Alrighty everyone, Raire here and welcome to Paladins. Today we're going to be going over my personal first impressions of the game, what I thought of it, and if you should play it. Now let's be honest here, I'd rather you actually try out the game yourself than blindly listen to anything that I or anyone else says. But yeah, anywho, to start, for people who are impatient and want the too long didn't read version, the game is worth playing. It is, in my personal opinion, a fun game to play. It has depth, it has a solid foundation, it has potential, and it is not Overwatch. In fact, if it means anything, I actually think that this game is more enjoyable to play than Overwatch. Personal opinion. Now, as long as hi-rez Studios keeps improving the game and are consistent with their update, I can actually see this game becoming my second first-person shooter game after my number one favorite first-person shooter game, Tribes Ascend, which was also made by the same people at hi-rez Studios. So yeah, I do have a reasonable amount of hype for the game's success at the current moment. Now then, if you're still here, let's actually get into the nitty-gritty stuff and talk in detail about the game and my impressions. So first off, my first impressions of the game within the first 2 to 3 hours of playing was it sucked. And I'm not lying, I honestly thought that the game was horrible. And the reason, however, is actually for something very different. I thought that the game was horrible not because of the gameplay, not because of the map, not because of the new card system. I thought it was horrible because it was an hour played with bugs and optimization issues. My first game in this particular game, Paladins, basically had my internet connection completely die and it required me to call my provider in order to fix it. My second game involved my internet dying again. My third game involved me playing with no HUD at all and with at least 300 ping considering the delay between enemies that were shooting me and when I was actually dying. And my fourth game where my internet died again, and at that point I was actually convinced that it was Paladin's fault because my internet failed at the exact same location, which was basically when we were loading into a map. It wasn't until my fifth game where I was able to get a full match out of Paladins and finally get my personal opinions on it. Now, thankfully, the reason that I didn't give up on the game sooner was because I had people to play with. So right now, I do also want to give a shout out to Pastry Sama, Nighty, and Sleepy for being there. Because if you weren't, this video would most likely not have been made out of the frustration of actually trying to play Paladins and get some footage for it. Now, after playing for a while, here's what I think. First off, the maps are pretty good, okay, though they do need improvement. They are passable enough, however, and don't provide that much frustration when playing. I personally never ran into a problem with spawn camping, getting killed across the map, or pretty much anything that a bad map design would generally encourage, such as camping. In the sense of being a close beta player for this game, I would say that this is actually a huge improvement compared to the maps that we had before, although it seems that some people would disagree with me and would actually consider the larger maps that we had before to be a good thing. That being said, I do think that the hitbox for the moving objective that we have on these maps should be shrunk down as right now they are pretty huge and they don't really fit with the new smaller maps, because consistently while I'm trying to shoot past the moving objective, it usually hits an invisible hitbox, and as a result I don't actually hit what I'm shooting at. Gameplay wise, it's actually pretty in-depth with a card system that provides variation in how you play your character. These cards will provide a stat boost or side effect to your ability, so you can build to make all of your abilities equally stronger, or have one ability be the cornerstone of your character. Either way, unlike another game that I played, this was implemented in a way that doesn't feel forced. In some cases, your ability actually synergizes with your gunplay. A good example being a particular character, Dragals, where basically he shoots out a fireball spit, which you can then shoot with your rocket launcher, which deals more damage. Now, aside from the cards from your loadouts, there's also an in-game perk system, where basically you pick perks after you die or after you start a round. These perks will give you small bonuses from stuff like lifesteal damage bonuses, movement speed, stealth detection, etc. This is kind of like building your character in a MOBA game such as League of Legends or Dota, but more low-key as you actually need to use points that build up the longer the match is and isn't affected by your performance. So usually by the end of a match, people will only have been able to pick up 1 or 2 perks. That being said, these perks do play an important part in the game as you need them in order to counter your opponent. For example, the stealth detection that I talked about before. A team that built around countering the abilities of the other team will usually win, so knowing which perk to pick is important as they can't be refunded once chosen. Overall, if you like MOBA games and first-person shooter games in general, this is actually a pretty good blend of both genres, and I would highly recommend trying out a couple rounds of Paladins for yourself. With that said, there are problems with the game. Unbalanced characters, giant hitboxes, cross-region matchmaking, which basically means you can be matchmade with someone in Europe if you live in New York, and as a result you basically get really high ping and a less enjoyable game. There's also a somewhat confusing point system for the objective, where basically it is actually possible for the opponents to win even if they lost the first 3 rounds and they only win the last round. That doesn't seem very fair, as technically if you think about it, that's a 3-1 loss. And as a result, shouldn't the team that won the most for the first 3 rounds actually win that game? But yeah, anywho, I hope these problems will be fixed by hi-rez Studios, and I actually pretty certain that they will be fixed considering the game recently went into open beta, so problems are to be expected after all. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope it was informative or at least helpful or at least entertaining. I'll see you guys next time, peace out, and as always, remember to be considerate and exit through the back door.